Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. So this still could be our issue here, guys. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and we're gonna dive right back into Dr. Dre. If you missed that last video, it had been a while since we even started the car up, or at least on the channel started the car up, and I went ahead and played around with cleaning down our cap and rotors, and actually it made a world of difference. So I've started the car now several times and it fires right up and it runs really good, but then it reaches a point where it starts to misfire. So we still have an issue. Each thing that I do to this car makes it better and better, and I know there's a culmination of problems with this car because of how long it sat, and I believe it even had the hood open at some point, probably because of all the moisture and water content that I'm finding on a lot of components. So what I'm gonna do today is several things. We're gonna go ahead and check out a couple different things, but I really wanna go ahead, pull our fuel filter out, blow it out, see if there's anything that's gonna come out the other end, because we did change this fuel tank out, but prior to that I had changed out the fuel filter, and then we changed the fuel tank out, and I did not swap the fuel filter again. So I'm afraid maybe some of the gunk from the old tank got into the fuel filter, and that's why it's running real rough once it warms up. So that could be part of the issue. But I never went ahead and checked the coil. So I want to go ahead and check our coil, see if there's any buildup on that. I don't know if it's the same one in my 91 R129 over there, but if they're the same part, I can even try swapping that over. And then somebody had mentioned on a forum, and I believe that this could be the issue too, because it's a very common thing, is the purge valve. So basically it's kind of an emissions thing where your gas fumes come off into that, and those seem to go bad. There is a way to test that, not electronically that I know of. I mean, there probably is, but we can test to see if it's stuck in the open position, which kind of happens a lot too. So I think we can test that, and that might be a part I just order in. But hopefully on this video, we can get this thing running without misfiring. And then if we have to go even deeper into it, I'll do another video following up where we get into our fuel injector. So that is one other thing that I really wanted to dive into. So eventually we will absolutely dive into that, but I like to go step by step just to see if we reach that point where it's running perfect. Then we know we've taken care of the problem, and then we can just start doing some of the maintenance that we need to do moving forward. So without further ado, let's dive into this. We'll test out each component, and then we'll try starting it, seeing how it runs, and go from there. All right, we're gonna jump under here and pull our fuel filter, but I already went under here and I got some bad news. You can see a little bit on there. It is dirty down here, but I think we have a little bit of a fuel leak. You can see kind of the corrosion built up on there from the dry fuel. But right now we're just gonna pull our fuel filter. I think this hose, it's an old hose we pulled from another car, needs to be swapped out. I probably just need to change out all of these hoses, probably change out the fuel pump as well, since everything was just pulled from parts cars. But let's go ahead and swap out our fuel filter, or pull our fuel filter, blow it out, see what comes out of it. Gotta love getting fuel all over yourself, but fuel doesn't look that clean. I mean, it should be coming out clear, and it's a little bit dirty looking, maybe a little rusty. So let's pull this filter off, and we'll go ahead and blow her out this way, because our fuel goes from here to the car, and you can see this is our inside, and that's where all that dirty fuel is. So the fuel coming to it is a little bit dirty, and I don't know if that's just from the back pressure coming out of there, but hopefully we can blow it out, and hopefully the tank we put in here is clean. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, I got a nice clean white bucket, so we'll be able to see. We grab our fuel filter and our in. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. So this still could be our issue here, guys. Hopefully we don't have a dirty fuel tank still. This has been an ongoing issue, and I gotta say, it might be time to clean another fuel tank out, but I know this one came from a good running car. Let's go ahead and blow this filter out. I'm gonna go ahead and order a new filter now, but let's blow this one out and see if we can start and get it to run a little better. So guys, there's still a good chance that this was just built up in this filter since I didn't swap it out. doing this will at least give us a chance of getting the car to run good. But look at all of that dirt that was in that filter. So definitely creating an issue. Whether that's our main issue or not, it is creating an issue. It could be causing a clog as the car runs, and that's why it runs for a little while and then wants to run rough. So fingers crossed, maybe just changing out this filter is going to fix all of our problems. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably screaming at the screen right now saying, what in the hell is he doing? Why didn't he change all this stuff out before? And if you're new to the channel, this was a car going to the junkyard. And honestly, I wanted this to be a part of the channel where we could together diagnose some of the major problems, especially with a car that's been sitting, because so many of you guys, like me, are trying to buy cars that may not be fully taken care of. They may have been sitting for years, and you're trying to diagnose these problems, especially on a 95 and earlier. You don't have the access to an OBD2 port. Of course, you can do your test light and that type of thing, but a lot of these issues could be like this, where you have a fuel filter that's clogged, where you have a fuel pump that's not functioning right, where you have a fuel tank that's corroded on the inside and seems like it's okay. So what have I done on this car so far if you're new to the channel? So we had major problems with the fuel. I originally thought I could clean the fuel tank out, even with it in the car. All of those things failed. So we ended up pulling the fuel tank because I had a parts car with a known good running fuel tank. Took the fuel line off. I just recalled, I went back and looked, and the fuel was pretty clean coming out of there. So now I'm pretty convinced that our fuel filter was clogged because I made the mistake of not swapping in a brand new fuel filter once we put the new tank in. So my guess right now is some of that old residue was still built up in that fuel filter and it's creating issues. Now, is that every piece that's wrong with this car still? No, probably not. I feel like we have something going on with our spark. We possibly have something going on with fuel injectors because of all of this nasty fuel that's been going through here. And so we're gonna have to work through these. But every time we do something, this car runs better and better. And every time I change out the fuel filter, even with that bad fuel tank that was clogging it up, the car ran beautifully, sometimes for a couple of days. So I think we're gonna have a good running car right now. I already know. Now, is it gonna last long? I don't know. I don't know if there's still some dirt built up on the very bottom of that tank, or possibly, I know there's not bad fuel in there because this fuel's not that old, but it may need to be cleaned out a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and order all the parts. But for right now, we're diagnosing this on the cheap. We use parts from a parts car. We really have no money involved in all of this diagnostics. Let's go ahead and start her up, see what happens. And then I wanna go ahead and take a look at that coil. And I'm kind of veering away from it being that purge valve, but we can go ahead and test that as well, because that is a common issue, typically results in a stalling out car, not so much from what I've read of a rough running car. So let's go ahead now and start the car up, see what it looks like. And of course we are gonna have to prime the fuel, because now we just drained out all the fuel that's in the lines. And so it's gonna take a second to start, but hopefully once that fuel is in the system, it starts right up. I'm gonna prime it a couple times. I mean, that was a pretty quick start considering, and I can already tell it's running beautifully. Not missing at all. Oh yeah, it's running beautifully. What I'm going to do right now is let it run for a while, because our issue is once it gets hot, it'll start misfiring. And like I said, it could be the clogged fuel filter. It could be something with spark, but let's try to narrow this down. And guys, we're warmed up. Running pretty good. Slight hesitation. Not really. I got a little bit of a hesitation on that first rev, but man, sounding good. Definitely not missing on any cylinders. But let's go ahead and check our coil, see if that thing needs to be cleaned down. But I really feel like of all the issues we had, this is the one that's always resolved the car kind of hesitating, stalling out. Each time I've changed that filter out or we tried to clean the tank out, it ran really good like this, and then it would start to get clogged again. So we could just let this car run like this, pull that filter out again, see if there's a buildup on there, and then we can try cleaning the tank out a little bit. But I know, like I said, the fuel that was in this tank when I pulled it was not that dirty. So I'm really feeling like that filter still was just backed up. But let's go ahead and take a look at the coil and see if we can clean that down too. And before we dive into this, I want to mention once again, this is a 95 S500, so it should be very similar on any cars made by Mercedes before, or 95 or before. After that, they went to coil packs. I'm not sure if it was every car, but that did away with the ignition coil as well as your spark plug wires. Still have a spark plug, so this could be still an issue. So some of the diagnosing things that we're doing might not relate to your facelifted car if you have one. So just keep that in mind. So our coil is going to be located underneath here. It's very common for these things to expand and then have issues with sending proper spark. So fingers crossed, this one looks pretty bad. Now, unfortunately, my 91 500 SL over there, when I tried to cross-reference the part, it said it's not the same. Kind of shocking, because a lot of the other 91 cars, like the S-classes, were the same. And I figured same motor, should have the same coil, but let's go ahead and pull this one out. That one we can get to really easily because everything's pulled out of that. So if we can look at it and see it's the same part, we might try it. But let's go ahead and pull off all this plastic, and it'll be underneath there, and I'll walk you guys through pulling it off. So actually going to be more right here is where our coil is. Let me get you guys a little bit closer. So it's going to be located right down here. And it does look similar to that 91 SL 500 SL that I have over there, because I already went ahead and looked at it. But it is pretty dirty. So let's go ahead, and if I'm correct, there's some bolts on the side here holding the whole thing in, and then you got some wires here. Now make sure you have your battery disconnected. I've already went ahead and did that before even attempting to do this, because you will have power going to it and you don't want to shock yourself. So let me go ahead and get some tools and get this thing off. Okay, so I went ahead and took the one off the parts car because I wanted to see if it looked the same, had the same part number, but also just to kind of get an idea of how this comes off the car, if there's anything special I've got to do. The thing I noticed on the 500 SL was there were some wires on the back side of these bolts. So you've got two 10mm bolts holding this to the frame, a 10mm bolt with some wires on top, and an 8mm bolt with some wires on top. I'm not seeing wires back there, but they could be a little more hidden on this car. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull those two first and make sure you catch those bolts. So I'm gonna grab a magnet as well, because on the parts car, they fell down. Now, fortunate for me, I have a lot of backup bolts and nuts and stuff from these cars because I've had so many parts cars. But for you, just make sure you don't lose those little nuts and those bolts if they come off. So let's go ahead and dive into this, pull this thing out, see if we see anything visibly wrong with it, any cracks or anything like that. And if not, I might try to swap this other one out, or we'll go ahead and just order a new one in. There is no wires going to the back of this, so that's a good thing. All right, guys, so I went ahead and did some diagnosing off camera. This is the one that I pulled from this car, and upon inspection, there is nothing cracked, nothing that looks noticeable, but the plug that goes in here, the wire, does not snap in as tight as it does on the parts car one. So this is the one from the R129. Now I went ahead and hooked that one up, fired the car up, and it ran fine. Switched back to this one, and the car ran absolutely fine. And I ran it for quite a while with both coils on there. Well, guys, slight fill-in, and some of you guys may have noticed I only pointed out one coil that's located right here, and I've already swapped that out with the parts car coil to kind of test it out. And doing more research, I realized there is a second coil on the same side. I figured it would be on this side going to this bank over here, but the lead wire runs over here. I started thinking maybe Mercedes linked them together, but I looked a little closer, kind of got down in here, and it is very hidden. Our other coil is right there, which means we're probably gonna have to take our headlight out, because I do want to check that. But on a good note, the car is running phenomenal. This is a day later, and I've already started the car up several times, swapped out that coil several times just to test it. And even if I use the original one or the parts car one, the car still runs great. I do have to admit there was a little corrosion on the lead wire, so that actually could have been causing issues. And also the old coil kind of had a slight connection issue where it wasn't snapping into the lead wires. So I kept the parts car coil on there because that one snapped in real nicely, and just been running it over the course of a day now. So probably started it a good 10 times, let it warm up, and haven't had the issue. So our main issue was probably in that fuel filter. Could have still had something to do with a loss of spark if the lead wire had corrosion on it, but I still want to get down in here and check out the other coil. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, try to get that headlight out of there because that's what you got to do, and then go ahead and check and see if that coil looks good, and then start the car once more. So let's go ahead and do that. And just as suspected, the coil looked great. I don't see any visible cracks. I cleaned the terminal just to be safe, fired it up, and as you can see, it is running perfectly, and it fired on first crank. So let's move forward. So on the next video, I want to go ahead and test our fuel injectors, maybe pull our fuel rail, clean out our fuel injectors. I really want to get one of those fuel injector cleaners, so I may do that before the next video. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and order in all of the parts that I think I need to swap out. Like I said, this is a low budget type fix, so I want to see what really needs to be fixed before just throwing parts at it. So I don't think I'm going to order the coil because that's a little expensive. Definitely going to get a new fuel filter and probably a new fuel pump and swap those in. Definitely get some new lines because we don't want to have any danger, any fires happening, and we can see that it is leaking fuel. So I'm going to get all that stuff ordered in, start with there, and then by the next video, we'll go ahead and start testing our fuel injectors, and hopefully we can resolve this thing. It's probably fuel or spark related based on everything that I'm seeing so far. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe it helped one of you guys out there if you're having some of these issues and maybe it's your coil and you want to go ahead and just swap it out and it fixes your problem, or maybe it's something fuel related and it's helped you by seeing where your fuel filter is, maybe your fuel pump's bad, etc. So you guys, once again, have an awesome day, a blessed week. I'm going to keep diving into Dr. Dre as much as I can to get this thing running perfectly. You guys have an awesome day, a blessed week, and I'll catch you on the next video.